Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm John. Today I'm going to share with you how to make a microchip scene in Blender3D 2.93. Before we dive into Blender, let me explain what we are going to do in this tutorial. This scene is actually formed by 6 different sizes of cube. First, we are going to draw the basic shape. Then we will scatter it around using geometry nodes. And after we get the composition we want, we'll start to add details and material onto the cube. And then we add in texture, light trail, and the hologram texture to finish the scene. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, first press A to select all, then delete everything. And then press Shift A to add a plane and make it bigger. Try to put in 19.3 for x-axis and 30 for y-axis. And now we want to add all the cube that we want to scatter it later. Press G and press Y to move it beside. And then press Shift B and select the cube to jump into it. Go to dimension section, hold left click and drag all the way down and change the dimension for all axes to 0.148. And remember to apply the scale by pressing Ctrl A and select scale. And make sure all the value in the scale section is become 1 after you apply it. And we can rename the cube to medium box. And now select the cube again, duplicate it and pressing Shift D and then press Y to make it move along y-axis. Change the dimension to 0.093, just make it slightly smaller than previous cube. And remember to apply the scale again. Rename this cube to small box. And now we duplicate another cube. Go to dimension and put in 0.77 for x and y axis. Then 0.034 for z axis. And we rename this to flat. Again, we duplicate another cube. And name it crystal. Duplicate another cube again. And change the dimension to 0.0231. Make the cube to be really small. And rename it for boolean. And make sure you apply the scale. Check and see if other cube already apply. This not yet applied. And now we can start to scatter all those cubes around. Add in another plane. Make it bigger. Move it slightly higher. And now we can add geometry node onto this plane. Press Shift A and add in a point distribute node. What point distribute node does is it actually distributes some random empty point onto the plane. Let me show you how it works. Connect the geometry. Add a join geometry node. And connect the point distribute to join geometry node. And now you can see there's some empty geometry scattered on the plane, and this is what point distribute does. But now the point is all empty, so we need to add our object to the empty point to make it scatter around. What we want to do is to add all these objects onto the empty point. So in order to do this, we need to add a point instance node. And here we need to select the object we want to put on the empty point. And we can select medium box. And now we have our object applied on the empty point. But now all the size of the cube are too consistent, and we need to randomize it and make it look natural. To do so, we can add in a attribute randomize node. In the attribute column, we need to tap scale. And now we got the randomized scale of the point. And we can still slightly play around with the minimum, maximum scale and the seed here to get the different outcome. Okay, so now we done the scatter for medium cube, and we can start to scatter the small box. Select 3 of the node here and press Shift D to duplicate it. Connect the geometry to the point distribute nodes, then connect the point instance to join geometry, and change the point instance object to small box. Again, you can play around with this value to get the result you want. Just need to make sure your smaller box is smaller than the medium box. You can experiment it yourself. Okay, we done the scatter for small box. Now we can go ahead and scatter the crystal geometry. Again, duplicate it. Connect the geometry to point distribute node. Connect point instance to point distribute node. Change the instance object to crystal. And play around with the seed value. You can play around with this value and don't have to follow me exactly. Just need to make sure the size is not bigger than medium box. And because here we got too many objects mixed together already, in order to make it clear, we can add different color to the cube. Okay, now everything is clear. We can add and transform node to adjust the position of the crystal cube a little bit. Okay, now we can scatter our final object, which is the flat geometry. Select the previous node and duplicate it again. Connect it. Change the instance object to flat. Now the geometry is too large, we have to scale it down. And now we can disconnect the geometry for the plane base. We don't need it anymore. And we can try to add frame to our nodes, so it will be easy to read. Press N to toggle the side panel. Go to Node tab and change the label to Scatter for medium cube. Add another frame. And label it Scatter for small box. Add another frame again. And label it Scatter for crystal. Add another frame again. And label it scatter for flat. Now try to move this bunch of cube lower until touching the floor. And then we can add in the largest cube at the center. Move up a little bit. Okay, now we have completed the basic structure we want. Let's add a camera. Move it up. Press Ctrl Alternate 0 to frame it. And now we can start to set up our camera. Change the focus length to 150. I want it to have more isometric view. And then move your camera far from the cube so we can see the entire scene. And now we are ready to add more details and material onto the box. Change the render engine to cycles. Change the device to GPU. Make the environment slightly brighter so later we are easy to see the material. Press Shift A and add lighting to the scene. Press numpad 7 to see the top view. It makes us easy to adjust the lighting. We can make the lighting slightly brighter. Press 7 again to see the top view. Select and duplicate the light and move it beside. Press 0 to see the camera view. Okay, now we can really add details and material to all the cube here. Add a geometry node to the medium box. Press Shift A and add a point distribute. Add a point instance. Add a boolean. Add an instance object to boolean the cube. We are actually instant this tiny cube to make boolean onto the medium cube. Now we haven't seen any boolean yet. Let's increase the density and see. Okay, now we can see the boolean. We can play around with this value. And again, add a attribute randomize, type in scale. Make it slightly bigger. And now we can see the details is updated in the instance. Now we can add material onto it. Make it gray color. Everything looks good. Okay, now we can go ahead to add details to the small box. Go to geometry node and add geometry nodes. And again, add a point distribute node and add a point instance. Select for boolean for the instance object. Add a boolean. Play with the density value. Add attribute randomize to random it. Play around with seed value. Make it slightly bigger. And now we want to add a tiny light into this boolean hole. And what we are going to do is we duplicate 3 of these nodes here. And we want to add a join geometry after the boolean nodes. And we connect the instance object to the join geometry. And now we have our tiny light instance exactly at the same position with the boolean. We can try to adjust it slightly smaller. Okay, this is what we want. Now we can try to apply material onto it. Okay, everything looks good. Now we continue to add details onto the flat geometry. Again, add a geometry node. Add a cylinder. Add a boolean. Adjust the cylinder radius smaller. Add a transform node to move the cylinder. Let us preview it in the camera view again. Now we can continue to add material to the flat geometry. Check again if everything is good. Okay, now we add details and material to the crystal. Delete the principal nodes. Add glass. Connect it to the surface. Make sure this is the pure white. Change the roughness to 0.7. Change the IOR to 1.5. And I want to add some lighting inside the crystal cube. So let's duplicate the cube, make it smaller. Change the dimension to 0.015. Delete the existing material, add a new material again. Delete principal, add emission shader. Make it slightly brighter. Drag it straight into the crystal cube. And try to position it to have a better look. You don't have to follow me exactly, you can try to play around with it. Duplicate another one and position it. Select both emission light and the crystal cube and press Ctrl J to join it together. And now we can see the emission light is not updated in the crystal yet. We can select the plane and check the geometry nodes and see. It seems like the geometry names were changed, and all we need to do is to update it in the geometry nodes. Yeah, now we got it, but the size is weird. We have to select the crystal and apply the scale. And yeah, now we done the details for all the cube. After finish the details part for the instant object, we can now continue to put material onto the floor. Go to shader editor, add a new material. Press Shift A and add an image texture. I will include this image in the description below. Please download it if you need it. And we connect it to the metallic and specular. Then we change the color to dark gray color. I think we can make it slightly lighter. Okay, make the roughness lower so the texture is more obvious. Okay, it looks a lot better now. And now we can start to make the details for the biggest cube here. Select and duplicate one more cube. Press tab to jump into edit node. Make it slightly taller than the cube below. Press tab again to exit the edit node. And remember to apply the scale by pressing Ctrl A and select scale. Apply scale for these two. And now we want to scatter some little cube on this surface. Now we create another cube. Scale is smaller. Drag all the way down and change it to 0.33. Ctrl A and apply scale. And change the name to scatter for big cube. And now we want to copy the material from the crystal cube to the big cube. Press 0, switch to camera view. Select the cube, add a geometry node. Again, add distribute node and instant object. Connect it. Add scatter for the big box. Add attribute randomize to random it. Tap in scale. Play around with seed. Add a transform node. I want to make it slightly smaller. Let's put it 0.85. Try to put 0.7. Now we want to copy this material and paste it to the biggest cube here. Now I want to get some light in the biggest crystal cube here. Add emission shader. Duplicate the cube. We can modeling some details here. Slightly adjust a little bit. Now we want to add a material for our main cube. We can make it slightly lighter. Maybe darker a bit better. Okay, then copy it to the cube above. Maybe we can add a different color to the extrude parts. Add another material and press assign. Add a new color. Make the roughness lower. Maybe we can add this a little more details. Okay, now we want to add some light trails to the cube. Add a material for the light trails. Change the emission color. Add another image texture. Connect it to alpha. Okay, now we've done the details for light trails. We can now start to duplicate the light trails to every side of the cube. Go to edit mode, select the vertices, press Shift S and select cursor to selected. Set the origin to 3D cursor. Start duplicate it. You can do this with mirror if you want. Okay, now we want to add some depth of field for the scene. To do that, we need to add an empty now object as our focus point for camera. Maybe lower a bit. Rename the empty now to camera focus point. Then select the camera. Go to camera setting, activate the depth of field. Let's make it full screen so we are easy to see. Okay, now we can add the focus point to the camera. Choose camera focus point that we create just now and change the f-stop to 0.1. Maybe we can make this 6 grids. And maybe we can make the floor wider so that it covers the entire scene in camera. We can try to make the light trail to blue color maybe. Yeah, it looks better now. By the way, you can actually put whatever color you like. You don't have to follow me exactly. And I want to make the light color inside the crystal become blue as well. Select the emission light in the crystal and change it. Okay, now finally we come to the final parts. We need to add the hologram texture around the big cube. Add a plane. Scale it bigger. Go to shader editor. And add the texture to the emission shader. Make it a little lower. Maybe we need to scale the texture bigger. Go to UV editor. Press tab. Select and scale the UV map smaller. Yeah, and then we done it. Thanks for watching. If you like my video, please subscribe my channel and see you next week. Bye.